Welcome to the Punting is Winning podcast. Just two fans talking all things Hawkeyes. Here are your hosts, JD and Keith.
Welcome back, Hawkeye fans, to Punting is Winning, the All-Iowa podcast. We are your hosts. He is JD. I'm Keith. Welcome back to another episode and another week of Iowa basketball, the ups and the downs. And it was an interesting week. But first, let's take care of a little bit of business. Let's talk a little bit about our question of the week last week, which was, do you think Iowa will have a new head coach the start of next year?
For men's basketball.
For men's basketball. It seems it's kind of a mixed bag of yes and no's. It's kind of, and we talked about it at the end. It's a simple yes and no. It's not a, do you want it to happen? Or it's more of a, do you think it'll happen? And I get where people are coming from. They want it to happen, but they don't think it's going to happen. And I kind of am on that side of the fence. And I know you're on the other side of it as you want it to happen and you think it will happen. I don't know. What's your thoughts? Do you think it'll be that Beth fires him, or do you think that Fran retires?
No, I guess there's two thoughts on this deal. You could go with, the fact that Jack, his youngest son, is going to be playing basketball in Indiana for Butler.
Connor coaches at Butler.
At this point, Patrick's still playing for Butler. He will graduate. He'll end his eligibility. I can't see Margaret staying in Iowa City watching Fran coach a team that she would rather be watching her kids coach and play. So I just don't feel like Fran has the intestinal fortitude, not that, desire maybe. I think he's thinking about moving on. I think he's thinking about moving to Indiana, accepting a retirement, accepting maybe a potential buyout, or he may just say, I'm leaving. Don't even have to worry about buying me out. I'm done. And he may just sit back and live on his fortunes.
Retire from basketball completely.
Yeah. And then if he wants to 4 or 5 years down the line when Jack's done playing, if he wants to get back in the game, I'm sure there'd be somebody that he could probably sweet talk into a job.
Yeah,
and then there's
in his 70s at that point, wouldn't he, though?
Yeah, he's 65 now. He the other train of thought on this is that he doesn't retire, and he basically forces Iowa's hand and says, you want me out of here, you're going to have to buy me out or fire me. And either way, he's going to get paid probably. So I don't know if Beth is going to have the intestinal fortitude or the stomach to fire and then rehire. But it's going to be something that she's going to have to get used to the idea, because I think it's coming sooner than she thinks. Because I think he's going to leave one way or the other.
I will give them credit, though. The team, as depleted as they are, they play
Still
hard.
Playing hard.
I mean, you could just see today that it was a matter of they didn't have enough gas in the tank, and you could just tell that in the first half. But we'll get into that in a little bit. But yeah, I kind of agree with you. I think I was on the fence before, where I was like, yeah, I think that he'll stick around for another year. I think she'll give him another year, kind of a ultimatum type, kind of that Brian Ferentz treatment of not necessarily setting expectations of you have to get to the second week of the NCAA tournament, but you have to make the NCAA tournament. I don't see that now anymore. I think it's more of he's going to help her out by retiring. I think that's just what it's coming down to. I think I don't want to say that he's lost his passion for the game, because I don't think that you ever really do lose your passion for the game. But I think he's at the point right now that, you can see it when things aren't going well. He's not demonstrative like he used to be. He's not up yelling. He's not red-faced Fran like he used to be. He just is there. And that's concerning that, from the side of person who might think, well, he's not really planning to move on. That would be concerning, because you'd want to see more passion, more fire out of him in those situations. Now, maybe it's a situation where he's had health issues or something and been told that he has to calm down. I don't know. Or the administration has told him he has to calm down. I don't know. I just don't see the fire that I saw in years past. And, it shows. And I think it's a product of him knowing that his team's depleted and they're giving what they can. So there's no point in jumping on them. There's no point in yelling at them, because they're giving everything that they've got at this point. They're missing 2 starters today again, and they're missing a key reserve, which would have been a starter. And you've got another guy who's out for the year in Cooper Koch, who you're kind of expecting to at least get some minutes out of, and you're not getting anything. And, you go from a rotation of that to, you're bringing in Chris Taggio, and no offense to Chris Taggio. He had 5 points today and decent in his minutes that he was there. But it's a kid that hadn't played much this year. And if you're getting to the point at this point of the season where you're having to rely on him to give you quality minutes, your season's done. And again, that's no disrespect to the players whatsoever, because I think it was a situation where he needed to learn, and he needed to have that little bit of time in the system to understand how the Big Ten operates and how the flow of the game. And it's unfortunate, but anyway, we can get into more of that when we talk about
I don't know. Let me respond to this real quick. I think emotionally he's still there. I just think there's a difference between putting up the passion and still having the emotions still there. I just, if you saw the interview after the Rutgers game, I mean, he was almost to the point of, breaking down. He was so proud of the players and the team for winning an away game, which that was their first home or away win. When it comes down to this for me, is when you're having 5,000, maybe 6,000 people show up to games in a 14,900 or whatever Carver holds or seat arena, that's a big problem. I mean, I think the fans have gotten to the point where they are apathetic to the program at this point. I mean, sure, there's people watching, but how many games have you watched and you said, okay, we're down 15, I'm turning it to something else? I've done it, because it's hard to watch them lose. I'm a fan. I can't sit there and watch them get their heads caved in night after night, knowing that there's nothing I can do about it. And so I just have to say, for my emotional health, I have to just say, I'm going to turn it over, and I will keep an eye on the score on my phone. And if they make some sort of a comeback, and it looks like they might at some point, then, maybe I go back. And I know that's probably being a fair weather fan or whatever, but that's not true. It's just, I am such a fan that I can't sit by and watch them get destroyed. That's the kind of fan. A fair weather fan just says, I'm done with them. No,
they don't even pay attention to the
score. Don't even pay attention to them. I mean, at least I watched the whole game today. And that was hard to do. I mean, at first when, we'll get into that. Let's move on.
Well, let's go ahead and talk about the guys anyway. We're on them. Let's go ahead and cover them.
Okay. So this week, they had an earlier game in the week. I believe it was it Monday or Tuesday?
I think it was Tuesday.
Tuesday. Okay. They were playing at Rutgers. And it was a come from behind 84-73 win. Iowa was led by Josh Dix's 26 points, Peyton Sanford 6 rebounds, and Brock Harding 7 assists. Iowa shot 51% from the field, 28% from the three-point line, and 90% from the free throw line, which that's pretty good. They only suffered 9 turnovers, and Iowa out-rebounded Rutgers, probably one of the few times all year Iowa's out-rebounded a conference opponent. I think they did it one other time, 32-25. Rutgers actually did have a 9-point lead at the half, 42-33. And then I went on a scoring binge and got 51 points while allowing only 31 in the second half. And that was an 84-73 win. I was playing without Drew Thelwell and Owen Freeman, of course, who is out for the season, of course. Rutgers falls to 12-13, and Iowa moves to 14-10 and 5-8 in the conference. I thought they played pretty passionate ball in the second half. It's like they took a while to get started. I think they were down 10-2 at one point. And, they fought back and took the lead. I think, Josh Dixon, Peyton Sanford, as they go, so does the team, it seems like.
Yeah. If they struggle, then the rest of the team is going to struggle.
Yeah.
And I think that's the way with a lot of teams. You've got at this point, they're your stars.
Yeah.
And if your stars aren't producing and you're relying on your guys that are more the role players or the backup cast, so to speak, you're in trouble.
Yeah.
And that's not to say that the backups or the role players aren't going to have nights where they're going to put up 14, 16 points. You saw that with Traore.
Yeah.
He really showed, but he did nothing in the second half.
Right. In fact, he didn't play a lot in the second half.
I think he got into early foul trouble.
Trouble. Yeah, you talk about the scorers and the players. You're really two only players right now on the team that are prolific scorers is Josh Dix and Peyton Sanford. And you alluded to this a second ago. Iowa's got some good players for scoring positions. They can score. But, they're not going to do more than 14 or 15 points probably in a game. It's just not, you don't expect them to get into the 19s and 20s.
Yeah, the only one you might suspect getting there might be a Price Sanford.
And Price has been playing better lately, but I just don't see him as a 20, 21 point scorer on a fairly consistent basis. And I know he comes off the bench, so that's going to keep that from happening. But yeah, you talk about, let's just concentrate strictly on the Rutgers game for now. Very, very impressed with their second half. They came out with a passion and a fire like I hadn't seen for a while. And, they kind of pulled themselves together, as a team and decided to play decent defense for once. I don't know whether somebody said something or they put it on their heads that they were going to play good defense, and they did. They held Rutgers to 31 points in the second half. That's pretty good at their house. And they've got some pretty good players. They've got some really good young players that just, I don't know if they don't play quite like as a team like a lot of them do. I think these are more of
that's what I noticed.
It's all about me type. And they're going to try to, score every,
play a lot of
all the
one-on-one
points.
ball.
Yeah. Yeah. And so when they learn to play as a team, I think Rutgers is going to be really good. But that's Steve Peichel. He's going to have to get on them and say, this is a team sport. You're going to have to play as a team. You cannot take this, mentality that you're going to have to score all the points because there's other players, really good players around you that can also score. So, and that's one of the things that Iowa has is that, we rely a lot on Peyton Sanford and Josh Dix to score. And when they don't, that doesn't end very well for Iowa.
No.
Like today.
Yeah. 18 points between the two of them.
Right. And Josh Dix come off a 27-point game with Rutgers and ended up coming back with 5.
And you could just tell, I don't know if it was just a matter of fatigue or what, because everything in the second half was just short.
Yeah.
It was front of the rim. It was, with Dix up the entire game, everything was short. And I don't know, why was Riley out?
No idea. I did not hear that in fact, I even said at some point, I go, why aren't we putting Riley in? So I don't know if he's out or if he's hurt.
Out completely for this game. I don't know why.
Yeah, I don't know why either.
I didn't catch that part. I'm wondering, were they dealing with some type of a flu going through? And I don't know. It was a tall task to beat Maryland at Maryland the way they've been playing anyway. But when you're up 51-47 at half, you don't expect to get beat by 26. That's the thing. You don't expect to get beat by 26.
You might down by 30.
Yeah, you might get beat by 10 or 12 because you just have a poor second half, but you don't get beat by 26.
Well, it was a complete breakdown on both sides of the ball in the second half. They didn't shoot the ball well. They were 0 for the game, second half in threes. And how this team lives on threes. They couldn't play defense to save their lives. The two big guys, Queen and Reese, were they were taking it to them. They couldn't be stopped. That Derek Queen, for a freshman, is a pretty good player. He's gonna be playing really pros.
He's really good at hooking too.
Well, I mean, if you can get away with it,
prevalently, yeah. He didn't one time, but the rest of the time he did. You're going to call it once, you might as well call it the rest of the times. But whatever. I mean, it's not like that made a difference.
Yeah, 26-point game. I don't think that made a whole lot of difference. But let's go through this game today. It was a 101-75 loss. Iowa was led by Price Sanford this time, 15 points. Peyton had 10 rebounds, his brother. And Brock Harding had 7 assists. Iowa led 51-47 at the half, as we talked about. And then they were outscored 54-24 in the second half. Iowa shot 43.1% from the field, 28% from three, 83.3% from the free throw line. Iowa played a really good first half and a really poor second half on both sides of the ball. Iowa was out-rebounded 43-29. So we're back to the getting out-rebounded thing again.
Well, they had no size today. I mean, it was Queen's 6'10", and Reese is what, 6'11", 7 foot.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
you're gonna then playing them both at the same time that you're gonna give up rebounds.
I credit Iowa for even being in the game in the first half because, what did Maryland come out and shoot 5 of their first 6 3-pointers, and Iowa was actually 3 of 3 in their first 3.
Maryland hit the first 7 shots.
Yeah. So you consider yourself real fortunate when the team comes out as hot as they were, that you were able to stay with them. I know they fell down by 9, I think, at one point in the first half. Was it 24-15?
Yeah.
And then, to come back and take the lead and hold the lead all the way up through into the half, I thought, there's a possibility that if Iowa can continue to play like this, they may be able to sneak one out here.
Mm-hmm.
And then when they come out in the second half and they couldn't throw the ball out of the boat into the ocean, I knew that, it was going to be downhill struggle or an uphill struggle, I guess. I guess the only thing you can do is come home. You've got a game against Oregon on Wednesday, and you've got another game against Washington on Sunday, I believe. See if you can sneak 1 or 2 of those out. And, then you can stay above that line that gets you into the Big Ten tournament. Because I think if you lose both of those, you're going to fall below that line at some point at the end of the season, and you're going to be one of the 3 left out. I think Penn State's already a shoe-in for that.
And I said it, Northwestern got beat again today, so they're pretty heavily under that line too. But I said it last week that Iowa needs to get to 16 wins. And that's not going to guarantee them a Big Ten place in the Big Ten tournament for sure. But what it does do is it should guarantee them a non-losing season.
Yeah.
And so they still got to win 2 more games to get to that. So this is your best opportunity this week.
I mean, they've got
games against the Oregon team who did win recently but had been struggling, and a Washington team who is not that good.
So let's go through the schedule here real quick. February 19th against Oregon and February 22nd against Washington. Okay. February 25th at Illinois, February 28th at Northwestern. March 6th, home game with Michigan State. And then to end it all off, you're at Nebraska on March 9th.
You might be able to sneak a win against Northwestern the way they've been playing without Brooks Barnheiser.
Yeah.
You need to win the home game against Washington for
Yep.
sure. You might be able to sneak the game against Oregon. I'm not saying that that's going to happen, but I mean, those are your three opportunities. Those are your three best opportunities. Outside of that, you're not going to win those others.
With that, then you would have, if you won those three, you'd be 17 wins.
Yeah. 17 and 14.
Yeah. And right now they're 5-9 in the conference. So if you give them three more wins, that would be
Maybe 7 and 13. 8 and 12, sorry.
8 and 12. Yeah.
That would probably allow them to be in. That would probably keep them in the tournament.
I think three more wins make sure. I think you're pretty safely in. But if you only win one, if you would happen to beat Washington at home and lose all the others, or if you lose to Washington at home and beat Northwestern in Evanston, I'm not sure that keeps you above the line.
6 and 14 does not keep you in there, I don't think.
So close right now.
Because, I mean, everybody that's in that range of falling under is either at 4 or 5 wins right now in the conference. And, I don't think 6 is going to keep you there in this case.
Well, we know for sure. Well, I wouldn't say for sure, but there's a likely chance that they're not going to win at Illinois. And there's a really good likely chance that they're probably going to lose at home to Michigan State. So I think we can knock those two completely out of the situation right now. So really, Oregon, Washington, Northwestern, and Nebraska are your best opportunities. And I'm not sure that you're going to beat Oregon.
I don't think you're going to beat Nebraska in Lincoln.
Yeah, after you beat them at home, they're going to be in for, there's going to be some bulletin board material probably put up for that game right before, and it's going to be extra motivation, although I don't know how much that actually plays into the situation. It might for the first 3 or 4 minutes.
It's also going to make a big difference as to whether you've got Drew Thelwell back. I mean, he's a spark plug. There's what, 12, 13 points a game that you're missing right now.
Mm-hmm.
It does make a difference, but I don't know if it'll make that much of a difference.
Yeah.
So let's just have to wait and see.
Yeah.
I think it's kind of a lost season if you're a fan, but still, I'm a fan, so I'm not giving up on them, and I'm not going to not watch them.
Right.
So wish them the best of luck.
When we flip over to see the girls, the women, they won 2 games this week. They are now on a 6-game winning streak. It's good to see. I think they're firmly in the tournament at this point. Now, they do have a pretty tall assignment tomorrow at 11 a.m. on President's Day. So everybody that knows, this is 11 o'clock game, a.m. on a Monday. Don't think it's coming up Monday night. It's early.
Yeah, this probably will be. That game will probably be out by the time this is in. Who knows?
Well, we'll see. Let's start off. Let's start off with Monday, February 10th, the game at Nebraska. And that resulted as an Iowa 81, Nebraska 66 win. Iowa was led by Lucy Olsen's 32 points and 7 assists. I think that might be your best scoring day at Iowa anyway.
Oh, yeah.
Hannah Stolke got 10 rebounds. Iowa shot 48% from the field, 50% from 3, and 64% from the free throw line. That free throw line's been kind of a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde type of thing for them. They did out-rebound. Oh, no, Nebraska out-rebounded Iowa 28-25. From a perspective of turnovers, they really did very well. They only had 9. Anytime you can keep it under 10, that's pretty good. Yeah. I'll take it. They did force 13 turnovers, so that was also positive. Taylor McCabe comes from Nebraska. I think it was, is it Fremont, Nebraska?
Yes.
She had a pretty nice game. She was 5 for 8 from the 3-point line, and I think she got 2 free throws on a technical or something. and she finished with 17 points. Now, did you know Lucy Olsen played the entire game, all 40 minutes? I like the game out of Sydney Falter. She has 13 points on 3 of 3 from three-point line. Iowa led at the half 38-35 and outscored Nebraska 22-11 in the third quarter and winning by 15 points. I don't know what you can say. They've been playing some really good basketball lately. I think they found their identity. I think they figured out who the leaders of the team is. And when you do all those things, you have the talent, even though there's some young players on the team. And I think sometimes the young players energize the older players to some degree.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I think you're really going to have, pretty good success if you can get all those things to work at once.
Yeah. My observations on that game is just one simple observation. You take out the god-awful officiating of that game. Iowa wins that game by 25, probably 30. Because were so many fouls called that you're scratching your head at what are you looking at? And it wasn't both ways either. It was pretty one-sided on that. Because I mean, at one point, I remember Iowa got up by, I think Iowa was up by 13 or something like that early in the first half. And the next 10 points that Nebraska scored were all at the line. They didn't make a field goal. And, there was conversation about, Nebraska hasn't made a field goal in the last 4 minutes. Well, it's because they've been at the line every time. And it just felt like, and I'm not a conspiracy theorist in this. It just felt like to me, like the officials were like, I don't really want to be here in a blowout game, so let's just keep this close. So, I don't know. It just seemed very poor. And we know that the officiating in women's side is pretty poor in general. But that was beyond bad.
I think typically you reward aggressive play for the most part, but it seemed like if you played aggressive defense in this game, you were going to get the whistle every time.
Oh yeah.
And, Iowa plays pretty aggressive defense, which is a good thing. I wouldn't want to see them do anything else, but it just seems like some officiating crews are a little more lenient towards the good defensive play, and others are, they don't do that. So they just every little, you can't even barely step inside of their safety zone and you're getting a call.
Yeah.
That
would be to me, that was the only downside of that game. It was just a game that lasted longer than it should have because there was a parade to the free throw line because the officials, and sometimes you get officials that want to make it about themselves. So they want to, like I've said before, if you don't know an official's name, they're doing a good job.
Right.
And in this case, I think everybody knew their names at the end of the game. And I'm not the only one that saw it. I'm sure everybody that's listening has had the same observation that I had, especially in that game, that, this is beyond bad at times.
Yeah.
But it didn't affect the outcome of the game in the sense of who won. It just affected the point score or the point spread at the end.
Yeah.
So that I can live with, I guess.
Yeah. I don't know. I like the dynamic of the team. I like Lucy Olsen scoring now. She's kind of taken this thing, like, she's not being a ball hog, but she's also saying, I'll lead the team
on her shoulders.
Yeah. And I like that. I mean, she's the senior. She's one of the seniors. And, this team needs to be led by somebody that's been around the block, even though she hasn't been at Iowa all 4 years. Still, she's was the third leading scorer last year. And so she needs to start figuring that out again and say, well, I'm new here, but I think I want to stay with the process that got me where I'm at.
Yeah.
And
I think the team has bought into that too.
Yeah.
I think the team's okay with that.
As long as they're winning, I think,
they didn't have a true leader prior to that. And because they've always, It was always Caitlin's team. You know,
Yep.
and I'm not saying that in a bad way, because as fans, we knew it was Caitlin's team. She's a generational talent.
Mm-hmm.
Without her, there was a lack of that identity of, well, whose team is this? Is this Sydney's team? Is this Lucy's team? Is this Addie's? Is it Hannah's team? Who is going to be that person that we say, this is who we're playing with, and this is what we're going to ride with? And it just took them a while to figure it out. And I think that's where Lucy kind of stepped up. And, you know, when shots started to fall, everybody was like, okay, yeah, we're good with this. You know, as long as you're winning, you're always good with it.
Right.
So, I mean,
well, we
I'm
need to
glad
get
they figured
Aaliyah
it out.
Guyton figured out too, because I don't think she's made a 3-pointer.
she's
I think she
struggled
might have made
recently.
one at Nebraska, but she didn't make any at Rutgers or with Rutgers.
Yeah, let's talk about that Rutgers game a little bit. That
Yeah.
a little surprising.
Rutgers. Let's see. Iowa wins 55-43. Iowa was led by Lucy Olsen again at 27 points and 3 assists. Sydney Falter did have 14 rebounds. So she's kind of taking the rebounding role. Iowa shot 37% from the field, 30% from the three-point line, and 67% from the free throw line. Iowa did win the rebound battle, 33-26. Iowa went back to their old ways. They got 16 turnovers and only forced 15. Lucy Olsen scored 49% of Iowa's points. This was a very physical, kind of slowed down at times, and pretty poorly played ball for both sides.
Yeah.
It felt like it was like everybody was stuck in a bog and just couldn't get free. It just felt that way. And, Lucy did have a good game shooting, 49% of Iowa's total points. But you can't have that. You can have a good score, but you don't want somebody to score 49 points or 49% of your points. Yeah. It's just.
Well, and I think the game played out exactly how Rutgers wanted it to play out.
Yeah.
They wanted to muddy the waters as much as they could. They had to know deep down there was no way they were keeping up with them. But if they can slow them down, it gives them a chance. It's the old adage of, if you let a team hang around long enough, bad things are eventually going to happen to you.
Yeah.
And, I think at one point it was close, but, Iowa started to build a lead. They got up by 16, 17 points. The 12-point margin was definitely a lot closer than the last 5 minutes of the game really was. But yeah, you're right. You can't have a situation where you're going to rely on one person to be, okay, maybe in this type of a game you can.
Yeah,
but against a good quality team, you're not going to do that. You're not going to do that against Ohio State. Ohio State's going to beat you.
Yep.
UCLA is going to beat you. Michigan will beat you. So you've got to have that more balanced, and you got to be, everybody's got to be contributing. You can have a game once in a while where that happens, and thankfully it was in a situation where it was against a team that you could afford to do that with. And that didn't look that promising early in the game either, because I think didn't Rutgers got out to about 11-point lead early in the first quarter, maybe 13-2 even.
I think they were ahead at the end
like
of the first quarter, 14-11 maybe.
Yeah, something like that. I think Iowa only had 10 at the 14-10 at the break.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. If you're going to have a game like that, that's the opponent you want to have that against. But you try not to have those types of games.
Yeah, I think Rutgers was one of those types of teams that they're really struggling on offense. Mm-hmm. And I think while they're struggling on offense, what they want to do is they want to limit possessions, slow the game down, and hopefully they can make enough shots to stay in the game, like you said, and pull off an upset on a lucky shot, or not lucky shot, but on a late game shot, and maybe sneak out of there with one. But they're not good enough to beat Iowa at this point. So, Well,
you want to know my honest opinion of what that felt like? That felt like watching an Iowa men's team back in the Todd Licklider years.
Yeah, that's a good analogy. That's kind of what it felt like. It was like just slow the game
Muddy
down.
the waters as much as you can. Slow the
Yeah.
game down as much as you can. Limit the possessions to try to stay in it, because you know you can't keep up with them from an offensive perspective if you don't get in their face.
Right.
So kudos to
Well,
them for doing that. It didn't work out, and Iowa was obviously the better team. Moves on, and you put that one in the rear view, and you just say, yep, we're glad to get by that one, and let's focus on the rest of the Big Ten here.
so Iowa goes on the road for Monday's game. We talked about this a little bit earlier. It's a 11 o'clock game against Ohio State. Ohio State is 21-3, 12-0 at home this year, and in third place in the conference. Iowa's now 18-7 and 8-6 in the conference. Iowa, again, as I said earlier, has won 6 straight games. Okay, so after Ohio State on Monday, Iowa returns to Carver Hawkeye on Sunday, the 23rd, against number one UCLA.
Well, they won't be number one at that point.
Nah, they might be. You think
think
USC is going to take over?
No, I think Texas is going to take over. Texas
maybe.
just beat LSU today, too.
Yeah.
And they were number 3, so.
We'll talk about the other landscapes of women's college basketball in a minute. Yeah, and UCLA did. I have written down here, UCLA lost to USC this week on USC's home court. So they're going to be anxious to get things righted. I'm sure they'll have a chance between now and the time they play Iowa. But after
Michigan State today.
And Michigan State, well, Michigan State's okay.
I think that's at home.
So after UCLA, on the 26th, you've got at Michigan. And then your last game of the conference season is on March 2nd against Wisconsin at Iowa City. I think that's a pretty easy win. I don't know about Michigan being on the road. If it was at home, I'd say Iowa would probably take care of that over the being on the road. You never know. So, I mean, there's a possibility I could see them losing. I could see them losing at Ohio State. I could see them losing UCLA. There's 2. Maybe Michigan. There's a little 3-game losing streak before they win against Wisconsin.
So you kind of have to hope that your worst case scenario was 2-2 in that 4-game stretch.
I think 2-2 you'd be happy with.
Yeah, 2-2 gets you to 10-8 in the conference, which it's weird. I thought they played 20 conference games, but they're obviously only playing 18.
Yeah.
So,
let's talk about the landscape of women's college basketball real quick. Did you see what UConn did to South Carolina at South Carolina today?
Yeah, I did. I didn't see the game itself, but I did happen to turn it on in the last, I don't know, maybe 30 seconds. 87-58. That's I think I had to do a double take to make sure that was right.
I did too. I did turn it on. I watched it from probably, I think it was about the 4-minute mark of the third quarter through the fourth. So I did get to see a quarter and a half of it, or a little less than a quarter and a half of it. And it just looked to me like UConn was out hustling them. They were certainly shooting the ball better. But South Carolina is one of them types of teams that, they can get beat by 29 points and then turn around and beat somebody that's pretty good, like LSU or Tennessee or something like that, by 30. Yeah. So it's just, they're kind of an up and down kind of team, but mostly up, because I think that was only their third loss today, which for South Carolina is an eon's amount of losses, because last year they didn't lose a game.
Yeah.
And the year before, I think the only loss was to Iowa.
And you look at the landscape of the SEC right now in women's, Texas is 26-2 and has beaten South Carolina and LSU. LSU today. LSU now lost their second game today to Texas. I know Kentucky's ranked. Was Kentucky ranked 5th? 8th. So yeah, you look at the rankings in the SEC for the women's side, and it's kind of like the men's side. The cream of the crop is in that conference right now.
Yeah.
So you've got Texas at 12-1, South Carolina at 11-1, 23-3 overall, LSU at 10-2, Kentucky at 9-3, and then Alabama at 7-4. So I mean, you've got very, very quality teams. Alabama is at 7-4 and are 20-5 overall.
And you're not even mentioning Tennessee.
Yeah, and Tennessee is actually down the list at about what is it, ninth. They're 6-6 in the conference,
And aren't
and
they
19 and
still
6
rated in
overall.
the top 25?
15th.
Yeah.
Yeah, the lowest ranked team is Alabama at 21st, and I think Oklahoma's even ranked at 16th.
So right now, is it UCLA, USC, and then Notre Dame?
For the top 25,
Yeah.
I think it actually went UCLA, South Carolina, Texas, Notre Dame. Well, maybe it's maybe it been Texas, Notre Dame, LSU.
Well,
I
USC'd
can
have to
tell
be
you
in
here in a
there.
second. USC was like sixth. Okay, so the top 25
Today.
was going into this week. UCLA was 1, Notre Dame was 2, Texas was 3, South Carolina 4, LSU 5, Southern Cal 6, UConn 7, Kentucky 8, Ohio State 9, and North Carolina State 10.
Okay.
So Notre Dame is probably, yes, you're right. Notre Dame will probably be the number one. But I mean, in reality, you could probably flip a coin between Notre Dame and Texas. Texas probably has higher quality wins. Notre Dame's best quality win is probably Southern Cal.
I wouldn't count out USC.
No,
No,
I'm not.
knocking off number 1 UCLA
Yeah,
that had not been beaten this year, and actually put it to them pretty good.
yeah.
I wouldn't suspect that win over a number 1 team might push them a little bit higher.
It'll put them back in the top 5. I won't put them. Obviously, wouldn't put them at number 1 coming from
We'll
6th.
see.
I'd probably put them at 3rd. I'm guessing that the top 25 when it's revealed tomorrow will probably be Notre Dame 1, Texas 2, UCLA 3, USC 4. Just based on the simple fact that if UCLA wins tonight against Michigan State, that is, based on the simple fact that UCLA has the 1 loss. And then I think Connecticut will probably be right after them, and then it will probably be LSU, then South Carolina. I wouldn't want to be the one trying to put that together because there's a lot of deserving teams that deserve to be in the top 5 that you can't put in there. So,
Yeah, it sounds like it's the Big Ten and SEC and Notre Dame.
And outside of that, your next best team is probably North Carolina State and TCU.
Okay. Did you know that that loss at South Carolina today snapped a 71-game home winning streak? That was the 4th longest winning streak at home of any team in NCAA history for women.
And probably,
I think before that it might have been UConn had like 89. Didn't they win 89 straight games at home?
Yeah, they had their dynasty there in the early mid 2000s.
It's going to be a fun NCAA tournament on the women's side. There's just a lot of really, really good teams that are capable of knocking off anyone at any time.
And that's a tribute to the fact that Iowa's 18-7. They're still a really good team.
Yeah.
And they're not going to be talked about because they're not of the caliber of those teams. So,
Yeah, and I think we're only going to get better as we go forward.
Yeah, I wanted to say kudos to Ava Hayden as well in that 2-game stretch there. Hadn't played for 3 games, and then comes in and was very productive and just picked up right where she left off. So
I'm proud of a lot of these younger girls for how they're handling their freshman seasons.
Yep.
We just need to get Aaliyah Guyton back on track for shooting, and that's only going to make Iowa that much better.
Yeah, I do love the fact that she is a bulldog when it comes to handling the ball and basically running the point.
Yeah,
it's just her shot has fallen off a little bit over the last couple of weeks, and it's everybody goes through a little bit of a slump. She'll get it back.
Yeah. So. Hey, here's a question for you. I don't know if you know this or not. If I was going to ask you a question, who is leading the Big Ten men's standings in basketball? Who would you tell me?
Michigan.
That's right, Michigan.
And the only reason why I would say that is because I watched Michigan and Ohio State earlier.
No,
So
I
I
didn't.
knew that.
I didn't.
I think it goes Michigan, then Wisconsin, maybe.
I
don't know
remember.
if Wisconsin's ahead of Purdue yet or not.
I just looked up and saw Michigan at the top of the heap with 12-2 in the conference.
Quite a turnaround from last year.
Oh, yeah.
What a difference a coach makes.
Hey, Iowa. What a difference a coach makes.
That's the thing. Iowa doesn't get that, doesn't make those lucky decisions like that. Or it's always Iowa's opening is at a less opportune time. You don't have, I don't see when Dusty May was available, he was the hot commodity and he had proven it. And I just don't see those younger coaches right now that are really opening my eyes to say, oh, this is the next big thing. This might be a down year for trying to find a coach. And that's the unfortunate thing of it's probably the year Iowa will need to look for one.
I still like the kid out at Utah State, and I like the kid at UC Irvine. Well, not really kids.
Yeah,
the guy at UC Irvine's is my
kids
age
compared to us.
Well, I think he won 54, 53 out at UC Irvine. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I guess I'm really interested to see how Beth goes through the process. I hope she doesn't go through one of those like search committee type of things.
Yeah, I
think that's a waste of money. You should have a pad of paper or a list and say, okay, if Fran leaves, this is who I'm calling first. This is who I'm calling second. This is who I'm calling third.
Yep.
I'm gauging interest and, what's it going to take maybe to get you to come to the campus, look things over, eyeball the team we have, and, do you want to do this or not?
Yeah. Yeah, that should be drawn up and hanging on a peg in her office of these are the 10 names that I want to pursue. And it should be 10 names. There should be no less than 10 names on there of these are the guys that if I have to make a coaching decision or if I have to make a coaching change, these are the people I'm going to reach out to first. And you might even have 15 names on that list.
Yeah.
And hope that you don't have to get down beyond 10. But,
yeah, I agree with that.
So, what do you say we wrap it up? And let's get on
question of the week.
Question of the week.
With Oregon coming to town to play basketball on, what was it, Wednesday? Wednesday. At 7:30. The question is, what is Iowa's overall record against Oregon in men's basketball? And when was the last time that Oregon came to Iowa City to play basketball?
If ever.
If ever. So all you smarties that Kelvin and Dean and them guys that live on this stuff, why don't you see if you can figure out those two things? Because we sat down a little bit ago and we were able to find the answer. In fact, you screenshotted it on your phone so you could prove it.
It doesn't come. It doesn't come very easily. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, you got to kind of weed through the BS that is on the internet.
Yeah.
But other than that, we're not going to talk football this week, unfortunately.
Nothing really to talk about.
No, we'll get into it. We'll start breaking down positions again.
Well, I have a feeling once the probably the next 2 weeks are over, we'll be into football mode at that point because we'll start into the spring practice and basketball will be pretty much done with the exception of maybe the NCAA tournament for the girls at that point. So we'll have plenty of time to talk football and we will. We'll do some positional breakdowns, break down the schedule again this year with after, and I want to do that after the spring practice because I want to see what we've got in spring practice. Obviously we're not going to get to see Gronowski in spring, but we will get to see Hank Brown, provided there's not an injury, and we'll get to see.
Maybe Jimmy Sullivan will play a little.
Yeah, and Brendan Sullivan, how he progressed over the winter as well. So, maybe we'll revisit the quarterback room again and see what we've got. So,
well, I'd still like to go as long as the weather's not really terrible. I'd like to go see spring practice again, the spring game, spring practice.
Yeah,
You good for that?
I would like to as well. Yeah.
Okay. Maybe we'll get together and head over.
Provided I'm not traveling at that point in time for something. Yeah, definitely.
Sounds good.
All right. Let's wrap it up. Make sure you catch us on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, Spotify, all the social media mediums. Make sure you like these videos, comment on them, subscribe if you're not already subscribed. We did pick up another couple subscribers this week. So thank you for that. Thanks for everybody who's the loyal listeners that listen to us every week. And, we'll eventually get to the point where we'll have some really good stuff to talk about. And hopefully we don't have to talk about losses. I hate talking about losses because it's just such a depressing thought. I hate seeing Iowa lose. It's frustrating. It's probably more frustrating for me when it comes to football than it is basketball because, there's so many games in basketball that you can kind of understand a few losses, but football is a little different. But yeah. But yeah, as far as that goes, we still do have our merchandise store. Got these nice shirts here. Got the quarter zip. Lots of things out there. If you're interested, it does support the Iowa Swarm. All the proceeds will go to that. Other than that, well, thanks for listening, and we appreciate everything everybody does.
Yep.
Give us some comments and engage with us more. Maybe we'll figure out a way we can do something live sometime. That might be fun to do.
Yeah.
All right, that's all I've got. You got anything else?
Nope, not that I know of.
All right, sounds like I'm wrapping up a work meeting here. So, all right, with that, we'll end it on a nice Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.